just shocking sometimes. When things aren't the way you thought they were.
Laura Dern and Nicolas Cage are young lovers on the run in Wild at Heart, the new film from David Lynch of Blue Velvet and Twin Peaks fame. And this movie isn't easy to review because all my time as a critic, I've been rooting for the movies to be something more adventurous than just primetime TV programming, and Wild at Heart is certainly that. But at the same time, I think this picture is ultimately diminished by director Lynch trying to be too offbeat. At the center of the picture, a great, rowdy, passionate love story between two runaways, a girl named Lula, Laura Dern, and a romantic, tough guy named Sailor, who patterns his speech and manner after Elvis Presley. He's played by Nicolas Cage. The film opens with him killing a man brutally in self-defense. He goes to jail, gets out, and is met by Laura Dern.
Baby, I got a surprise for you.
Hey, my snakeskin jacket! Thanks, baby! Did I ever tell you that this here jacket represents a symbol of my individuality and my belief in personal freedom?
About 50,000 times. I got us a room at the Cape Pier. And guess what? Pyramid plane at the Hurricane.
Stabbing and steer.
When these two are alone together on the road, the film is magical. They do love each other in a theatrical way.
Peanut, I'm thinking of breaking parole and taking you out to Santa California.
Sailor!
You up for that?
I'd go the far end of the world for you, baby. You know I would.
The supporting players in the story are all quite kinky. Out to kill Sailor is Lula's mother, played with venom by Diane Ladd. She asked detective boyfriend Harry Dean Stanton to go after Sailor. He objects.
Oh, now listen to me. You gotta get off that kick. As far as I know, Sailor was completely clean before he got involved in that event with Lula. And even there, he was trying to protect her. That crazy Bob Ray Lemon was coming at both of them with a knife, for God's sake. He could have killed both of them. You ought to be thanking him.
The hidden element there in that scene is that Diane Ladd there, Lula's mother, tried to put the make on Sailor. He turned her down. She wants him killed. But those scenes don't begin to describe both the inventiveness and the distasteful weirdness in Wild at Heart. David Lynch marries the style of a classic two-characters-on-the-road picture with a Wizard of Oz fable of hope. And that kind of ambition, that combination, that's all fun. But the back half of this movie is really littered with throwaway bits involving rape, flies on vomit, Fellini-esque nudity, a head blown off, cockroaches in underwear, and on and on. And the love story of Lula and Sailor, which is so strong, gets lost, I think, in this most ambitious movie that is, I think, diminished at the end.
You know, I've thought a lot about this movie since it won the Cannes Film Festival last May, which I totally disapproved of. And I think what bothers me the most about David Lynch is what I would call his only kidding syndrome. He wants to deal with the most shocking possible imagery. He wants to deal with subject matter that involves violence and images that are sure to absolutely repel the audience, and then he wants to always end with a punchline that's a joke. Now, right at the beginning of this movie, before we even know who any of the characters are, the Nicolas Cage character grabs a black guy who's trying to stab him and beats him to death and pounds his head against a marble floor over and over again with blood splattering all over him until the brain is crushed. And then, when we're sitting there absolutely appalled, not only by the violence, but also by the subtext of racial animosity, he staggers up against the wall, grabs a cigarette, lights it, and then looks up underneath his lowered eyes like this at Diane Ladd and gives an overblown melodramatic reading that's supposed to be funny, so we can all laugh. I hate it when Lynch tries to get off the hook of his violence by giving us those cornball laughs at the end of every one of those sequences like that.
Well, I'll tell you, the problem with me is I don't think there's any subtext of racism in that scene at all. I think that if a white killer had come to him with a knife, it would have been shot there.
Well, why was it a black killer then?
Why wasn't it white? I mean, it's the same question. We can play that one back and forth. He happened to be. But he was hired to do the job, probably needed the money. The point is, the other point that you're making is sort of somewhat what I'm saying. I like this picture more than you did. I'm more interested whether you really like as much as I did the Sailor and Lula love story. I think that's a genuine, sort of beautiful relationship.
Well, yeah, and you can see it with Elvis Presley and any of his co-stars. Basically the same sort of thing.
Oh, this is...
Come on.
You don't think that was... No,
I didn't think it was a great romance. I thought it was recycled out of old movies.
I think that this picture is the strength of this picture, and the thing that makes me think that there's a lot more here than you're giving credit for, or maybe than I even got on 3 viewings feelings of this film is that it is recycled out of old pictures. I think this guy has put movie history in a blender, basically. And I think he loses control of the blender, if you will, at the end of the picture.
Yeah, well,
I
the
think
problem is, by the time he pours it out of the blender, all the froth has risen to the top. I wish he'd have the nerve to make the movie he wants to make instead of trying to sugarcoat it and all of this smarmy parody that he thinks will allow him to get away with what he really wants to say.
I think that he did it much better in Blue Velvet, a picture, again, we had a big disagreement on. I think that picture was more of a piece and more about itself than this picture, which, I keep repeating myself, he loses it at the end.